hopefully I say this correctly.
A good way to remember that is think of the two separate words appear and on and just splice it together.
What's up, everybody? It's Keithy, and I am here with Andrew from Apeiron Bound. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. About yourself, Keith?
I'm awesome. We just had a whole lesson on how to say your name, which is important. This is like the third interview this week where in the last week and a half where I had to ask somebody how do you say your name, including a band, a very popular metal band that I followed for like 15 years, a Legion, not a Legion or a Legion.
Dude, I did the same thing with a Legion. I thought it was Elegaon and Legion, whatever the fuck that is. Or I did that with Mirith, which I used to say it like Myrith for the longest time, but then I had to think tier, but you got to add the M in there. Haken's another one that people do that with. And
Haken or Haken,
like
Haken, like a serial killer, and like Michael Myers. And I'm going to tell you that I think one of the guys in the Legion totally told me the wrong one on purpose. Like we have fun times with those guys, but maybe too fun with the drinking. And anyway, how are you, man? This is a crazy time in the world. You have a new record out coming soon this summer. We want to talk about. I'm really pleased to see you. This is a banana balls time in the world with plague and war and personal troubles. But I hope you, the band, your friends, your family, I hope everybody's okay.
Everyone's safe and sound and just riding the waves and doing what we can these last couple of years, especially. And yeah, got a little bit of a battle scar right here and affected my guitar playing a little bit, but ligament tears and all that shit, you got to push through.
My. Was that strictly from shredding, or did you get?
No, that was. I wish. No, this came. I can't talk too much about it for certain reasons, legal reasons, but I will say that I was in an accident. I was hit at 55 miles an hour, holding onto a steering wheel. And when you're doing that, it's going to cause some ligament tears and a few other things, but everything worked out.
Okay, well, I hope it heals soon, and you don't seem, hopefully, not too encumbered by it. But like you said, guitar playing. I always think of carpal tunnel is a thing that affects shreddy guitar players and bassists sometimes. And I always think about Marty Friedman when he was in Megadeth in the early 90s, had to completely change his grip, right? He used that funky, weird hand grip where he picked like back, I don't want to say backwards, but kind of like for him, the alternate, he never did alternate picking apparently. The whole time he was like in Cacophony and doing these kind of shreddy, whittly guitar albums. And then he got in Megadeth with Mustaine, who is, whatever you feel about him, a legend of guitar and had a very distinct style of rhythm that has help-shaped metal. And he's like, you got to either play like me or not, but live, you got to be able to play rhythm. I'll play it all on the albums for a while, but like you have to be able to play live like me.
There's a number of musicians that are coming out more and more with carpal tunnel. Like it could be everything from accidents to having your instruments hanging way too low and you're putting a lot more work. Like instead of just putting it up to a standard height, you see a lot of musicians lowering it down for the aesthetic, and then you're putting a lot more effort into playing guitar, which actually can cause carpal tunnel. I actually read something years ago where Alexi Leo, not carpal tunnel related, but he broke his shoulder or something like that, and he had to change his guitar. No, it was bowling. He broke his shoulder bowling, and he had to change his playing as a result of that.
That's crazy. I used to play bass in bands and play like a very low bass. I thought I looked cool, and then I was like, my neck, my back, what's going on? Everything hurts. Maybe what we need the ergonomic doctor to come out for guitar. Somebody out there who plays guitar who's like an orthopedist or a chiropractor, and give a YouTube channel on that.
Yeah, for sure.
So your new record is Multiplicity, and it's coming out this summer on Layered Reality Productions. We're big fans. We've interviewed Tom DeWitt of TDW. We love that guy, and we nerded out very heavily on progressive music and metal, and we're Facebook friends, so I follow him very closely. So if he put his seal of approval on your band, this is a good thing for you, because I think he's got great ears and taste.
Very nice guy, very fantastic to work with.
He has to be. But before we get into this album and unpack your band a little bit, how did you get started in music personally? How did your band form?
All right, well, personally, I started playing guitar around age 12. I wanted to be like my friends who were getting into guitar, but then over time, with my obsessive person, when I get into something, I really get into something. When I'm into skateboarding, I'm into skateboarding. Video games, I get into video games. Guitar was another one of those things. And about 15, 16 was when I decided for sure that I wanted to get into it. And how I got into progressive music was actually one of my guitar teachers, Guy Unger, who as a music school, Cape Fear Music Center back in Fayetteville, North Carolina, when I used to live there. And he got me into Rush, Dream Theater, and all these other different progressive bands, jazz fusion when I was learning music theory. So that was my stepping ladder and how I got into music. Well, video games, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater franchise, Legend of Zelda, and all that sort of stuff. It just became sort of a ladder for me to get more and more into music as time goes on. As far as Apeiron bound, I got into, well, some of this material is over 10 years old. I just pile music, and officially formed this project quietly around 2018 when I was just sick and tired of holding on to this material for so long. And I was in a good area in Florida, so timing worked out really well with that. So started off as a one-man project with a audio producer, John Galloway, who's done stuff with Xehanort. He had a brief thing with Rings of Saturn, and over time got Michael Calza from Alpha Decay. He did all the vocals, and he's the predominant lyricist for the project, and got everyone else involved. Got Peter de Reyna to do session bass, and got a few other session and guest musicians along the way. And then we got the lineup that we have now with Phil doing guitars, we got Chris doing the drums, we got Kyle doing the bass for the live and future recordings. And it's been 4 years of building this project, and we were actually going to release this record around 2020, but COVID and everything that happened, and it would have been an absolute flop if we did it like that now, and especially with no music video and just doing it the old way, as they say. But it gave us a little bit of time. So COVID, as crazy as it was a silver lining to get music videos done, as well as PR and just learning the ropes of all that other stuff.
Yeah, tough to sit on music that long and not share it, at least. And credit to you for being able to do that. Obviously, you're able to put out the best thing possible. I used to do some music marketing myself. I still do sometimes, and I'm a social media expert. And I tell bands, it's like, we spent all this money on the recording. Like, what did you budget for marketing? What did you plan for everything else? Because you have to prepare. There's so much more to putting out a record than just the music. And I know that bands, especially artists, real sensitive artist types, we all kind of are, if you do this kind of thing, it's the music is the thing that makes me do what I do, but like there's the business part that, in years past, decades past, the musicians never had to take care of. And now, even on a label, I know bands that are doing their own marketing, their own promotion, even sometimes their own PR.
Oh shit, being on a label, major or indie, you're still paying for the majority of everything. Even if you get it advanced, you're still paying for the marketing. You still got to pay for the music video. You still got to pay this person, that person, that person. But then you get people that are still stuck in the old ways, or whatever you want to call it. They want to live that rock and roll lifestyle. They want to focus on the music, which we all want to focus on the music. We all want to focus on the artistic side. But you want things a little more on your terms, you're going to have to put in a little more work.
True, so true. And in addition to this killer band, great producing work you guys have put together, you have a ton of guests on this album. So how did you go about connecting with them to get them to play on your record? And how did you write with them in mind, or did you choose tracks for them to, work on? How did that all come together?
Well, some of these tracks were already written long before the recording process, and some of it I was writing with Galloway as we were in the studio getting all that done. And I'm going to go in order. So John Pyres, that's the first one I'll get into. I had an interlude little soft section in mind, since he writes very sad songs and sad sounding music for Threads of Fate. I had something in mind for a melody that I wrote originally. I had him do his own rendition of that, as well as doing some warm pad stuff, and wanted to have that little break from that anthemic chorus that was right before then. Angel Vivaldi on Eleutheromania, I had something in mind for his guest solo, something that would, without Angel, right? It's not the typical guest solo where it's just, I'm going to write something, you're going to know my name, fuck you, my name's on the thing, be grateful for that. Angel was a great one to write with. He writes for the song, he serves the song. He's not there to be the fastest or to be the most show-offy, but you can tell his own style. He writes with melody. He has fantastic guy to work with. The two interludes that I had in mind, that was actually one of the more collaborative pieces with Frank from EARTHSIDE. one of them, Melancholic Sin, I wrote a melody that I had in mind for a song idea, and I figured we need a little bit of a break between Eleutheromania and My Sweet Stockholm just to give more of a cinematic feel. So Melancholic Zen, that whole theme that I told Frank, here's a melody idea that I wrote, and the title is Melancholic Zen. So right as if you're trying to find contentment in a state of chaos, and that's what he did with that. And Chaotic Fervor was another one that he did. Chaotic Fervor is kind of like a premonition that is to come with Astroreflection, where Astroreflection is literally Zen and chaos, good and evil fighting each other, that type of thing. Joshua Coram from Head with Wings, I've been a fan of him and good friends with him for a few years, met him through the Earthside guys, and he has that nice alternative rock, prog rock type of voice, which I felt was great for his section on Absent Familiarity, as well as he actually wrote some lyrics for that song also. And he actually did some additional choirs as well for Emotive Servitude and My Sweet Stockholm, and got a few people for My Sweet Stockholm choirs also. And Rich Gray from Aeon Zen, I've known him for about 12 years. He did a guitar and sax solo for the ending track. So there's a lot of people, and a little hard to keep up sometimes with the amount of people that I got on this record. But to kind of wrap it up, a lot of these people I've known for years and years. We've met online, we've met at Prague Power, other music festivals, and everything like that in between. And they love the music, and we've been good friends for so long, and just wanted to do something to give a cinematic feel to this record.
Nice. I was going to say Joshua kind of comes off vocally as like a John Howard of Threat Signal.
I always call Josh like the proggy Incubus. He kind of has that Incubus.
Oh, yeah, Brandon Boyd. Incubus was like Mr. Bungle Faith No More prog rock band at one point, and then they just kind of got into the yacht rock surf guy thing. I don't know if that happens when you're super good looking like Brandon or not. It's just the music just becomes whatever your persona is. But good times if you were an Incubus fan like way back in the day. But yeah, these guests are awesome. We love Angel.
I don't want to leave out Stevie Wolf from Lycanthrope. He co-wrote the interlude leading into Emotive Servitude and did some additional synths. Don't want to try not to leave anyone out, but
yeah, of course,
for people to read.
Yeah, of course. And then I love the sexy sax solo by Rich. That's all. I'm glad you shouted that out, because it's always good. It's always a good time for sexy saxes. So, but yeah, none of this stuff works if the songwriting isn't good. So you guys worked on this for a long time. And so, let's say you're going to sit down and this is a very thick record. There's a lot of tracks. When you sit down to write yourself, obviously your band is a collective, but like when you sit down to compose something, obviously, what's your process like? Do you come up, do you have like a bag of riffs you're not using that are in reserve? Do you record, do you pre-pro yourself? Do you record a lot of demos? I just interviewed somebody else who was like, I record everything to my phone. I was like, please back up your phone. Oh my God.
I actually back up my stuff with Guitar Tap software. So I'll just be playing, and if a riff comes to mind, I'll save it on Tux Guitar. And for me, that's saving a lot of time putting it in the software rather than just pulling up the DAW and waiting for the DAW to load and waiting to see if your recording processor is working and all that. So I'll put a lot of that stuff in Tux Guitar, Guitar Pro for whatever your preference is. I'll put it in the Guitar Tablature software. As a matter of fact, here's a little something right here. So that's pretty much how I write my music. So you have the tablatures, you have your guitar tracks, you have clean guitar tracks, you have a EDM thing, you have drum tracks. So pretty much I write a lot of stuff. You can call it pre-pro Guitar Tab version, and then I'll export and then I'll export the MIDI when I feel like everything's ready. When most of the stuff's ready, I'll export the MIDI, I'll give it to my producer, in this case, John Galloway, and then he and I will go back and forth on synth sounds, and he and I will go back and forth on the drum programming and everything like that in between, and the rest is part of the process.
Right on. Do all the guys read tab or sheet music?
I will film a Guitar Tab video from my phone, and I'll just send it to them, and they can listen to it. And some of them can read some of the guitar players can read the Tux Guitar and all that stuff too. So if they have input, they'll give their input, or at the very least, they can tell what's going on with the song. And it's night and day hearing the MIDI and the recording and all that. And when I was first showing this to the guys, they didn't know what to do with the MIDI sounds. But now that we got a record out, Now you understand my insanity a little bit with that.
Nice, yes. Yes, now we see the full monster brought to life. It's alive. What's interesting is I also had a classical background, and I used to sight read and write scores and sheet music poorly back in the day, and then hand that to people, and they'd be like, "What do you want me to do with this?" They were like very punk rock about it. Is there ever a time when all your training and stuff just kind of goes out the window and you go with feel? Maybe when you guys get in a room and play together, sometimes a part will change you didn't write, and you'd be like, "Oh, that's better." Or is it just like some people are very rigid and like, this is what I wrote?
Yeah, I when it comes to writing for me, like I don't think about theory until I'm harmonizing or I'm writing a lead part. When it comes to the initial riff idea, I just think what sounds good. And there's some stuff that comes off very chromatic-y you wouldn't think would sound good. But in this context, it sounds good if you're off key a little bit or you're a little bit chromatic-y, but then there's going to be times you're going to want to be a little more on key. But that's for me more so when you're harmonizing or you're writing a lead part or you want to find some sort of contrast. But writing the initial riff idea, I don't think about time signatures. I don't think about theory. I just think, okay, this sounds good. I'm going to put this in my guitar tab software, and then I'm going to figure out the BPM. I'll figure out the time signature, and then what sounds like 4/4 to me, I'm writing a 17/16 riff leading into a 7/8 riff. I'm writing a 9/8 riff here. I'm writing a 5/4. It's like 99% of the time, I don't think about the technical aspects of that. I just write what feels good.
Nice. I like it. What we were also talking about, we touched on very briefly, is you have some of these interludes and these sort of lead-in parts to these very grandiose, bigger songs, but nothing feels kind of like, like I would throw it away. Everything feels like natural, and I like the dynamics of the record that way. It definitely gives the album a little bit of a lift to have this kind of journey. Do you think that future albums would be, obviously you had this long time to gestate this guy, and you were going to hopefully play out and go play, hopefully some shows and tours and festivals, maybe even, fingers crossed. But like, do you think the next time around with a shorter window, will that affect your writing at all, or maybe you just stylistically choose to go in different directions?
I like the idea of having interludes that just give the record a break or give it more of a cinematic vibe. I don't think playing live shows will affect that too much. I know you'll have to change set lists and all that. That's like the most that'll happen with future albums and all that. But as far as writing music itself, I want to focus on the feeling of the record. I want to focus on what that particular vibe is going to go for. I feel like if this record didn't have interludes, it would just feel like a collection of songs. And I didn't want it to feel like a collection of songs. I want it to feel like you can go to the individual songs, but you can also listen to it from front to back, side to side. I want you to have the options listening to it. And that's how I constructed the songs. That's how I constructed the order of the songs and everything like that in between.
Nice. Somebody gave me a burn on Instagram the other day. I make no secret that my favorite band ever is Pink Floyd. I don't care. There's always been my favorite band, almost.
My mom too.
Somebody was like, I was like, oh, what's your favorite song on Dark Side of the Moon? Because it just turned like, an anniversary year. And they were like, isn't it one song? And I was like, it sounds like one song. It's actually not. Even on a CD, there's tracks. Because, they could have just they could have just made a CD with one track, and they didn't. It is whatever it is, how many songs. And I think radio makes those big hits into singles anyway, But I do always appreciate that, these ideas musically that express themselves, where it's not just like, here's a song, boom, that's it. And obviously, different things, radio, singles, videos, you can't always express these larger pieces unless you're, Dream Theater, Coheed and Cambria, or Tool. You don't get that luxury mostly, the production value and things like that. But it's cool to have these little bits, I think they add a lot of flavor to the album.
And doing it in such a way where you have the option of whether you want to listen to the entire record or you are more single oriented or you're more individual song oriented nowadays, where you just want to listen to a couple of songs. You have that option with how the songs are constructed. That's how we constructed this record. And so you pretty much have options for everyone. So yeah, you don't want it to feel like a collection of songs, but you also want to give that option for your listeners to, if you want to feel cinematic, but you can still feel cinematic with the individual songs, but it all depends on how you listen to it at the end of the day.
So what's the plan in the meantime? We're recording this well in advance of the album drop. You know, what's the situation where you guys are? Do you have some touring planned?
We are definitely working on some things right now for the summer and just making sure that we get all the stuff for live shows ready. And yeah, what our drummer actually pulled his heel at work a couple weeks ago, so that put things back a little bit, but that gives us enough time to get ready for the summer. And I know this will be out by the summer, so we'll probably be doing shows by the time this comes out. But yeah, there's just a lot of prepping right now.
Right on. Yeah, of course. And then I imagine to just faithfully replicate some of these songs live, you have to put a lot of time in to perfect them live, as opposed to the studio where you have a lot of ability to retrack and track again and make it perfect. Live is all you got.
A different animal.
A whole different animal. In the meantime, I know we talked offline a bit. You used to have a YouTube channel. What do you do in your spare time for fun since you're not YouTubing anymore?
Well, I do a little bit of traveling. I go to music shows. I like to travel out of state. Like I just did a New Year's trip to Massachusetts. I saw my friends in Seventh Pyres for their album release party for Gods of Debauchery. That was a fun experience right there. And just like to go out when I can and try not to focus so much on Ubering and lifting and caregiving and working on music. Yeah, but doing what we can, just traveling.
I didn't know personally. Were you a Berkeley guy? Is that what I'm getting?
Not a
No?
Berkeley. I never went to Berkeley, but I did some music training back in North Carolina. And
Sure, good to know. Seven Spires is a killer band. Everybody should check them out, by the way, whether you like Lord of the Rings or not. And they rule. And yeah, man. What music
really
shows
nice
you? Oh, so good. What you said shows? What have you seen at all recently, if anything?
Well, the most recent show I went to was Obscura, and that was really nice. Seeing some Melodeath again. Saw Swallow the Sun a few months back, and I think people are really starting to appreciate shows a little more nowadays. Now that we had this 2-year period of not being able to do much of anything, but we'll see what happens with this grace period that we have, and hopefully it stays that way.
Fingers crossed, man. I'm beating this into the ground, but I'm optimistic that we're gonna get better and get through this, and hopefully war doesn't ruin everything, because war is terrible. And like life was hard enough before plague and war, you know, on top of everything else. I didn't have these things on my bingo card the last couple of years. So there you go. Murder hornets, whatever, you know, like what's next? Sasquatches, I don't know, Yetis, I don't know, fireballs from the sun. Who knows? We're just trying to hang in there till the good music comes out, man. Congratulations on this album. Really cool sharing your story with us and the Ghost Cult viewers and listeners. I really appreciate you. And yeah, man, best of luck to you. Stay safe out there, and hopefully we get you out on tour and we do the next one of these in person.
Sounds good, man. Nice talking with you, and talk more soon.